As I was sitting on the beach today, I looked over and there was a couple of kids, and there was probably 4 or 5 of them. They were running into the water, and mind you, the water's probably 58, 57 degrees, whatever it is. And these kids, without a care in the world, diving into the water, running back and forth, jumping up and down. There was another group of kids that were building a sandcastle, grabbing like random sticks and building a little fort with it. Another little the tiniest kid was like, running, touching the water, coming back. And there was this careless kind of free-flowing joy that was pouring out of the kids. And then I looked over at the parents, and the parents, you could tell, like the dad had a kind of scowl on his face a little bit, but he's watching the kids really intently just so the water won't rush them away. The moms, they're kind of talking back and forth, but you could tell that they're cold. And I know as a parent too, they have a time frame on how long their kids can have this fun at the beach. And I was looking at it because of the contrast of the two. You have this one side, the joy, the carefree, the freedom, the love, everything that's happening with these kids, not a care in the world. And then you contrast that with the parents of the care of every single thing, whether it was they were going to make dinner or breakfast later. They had to get the kids back. They didn't want to get them wet and too sandy and all these things. And so as I sat, I was laughing to myself, and then I read Proverbs 3, and Proverbs 3 is so important to me because it was something that my pops talked to me, about. He always gave me Proverbs 3, verse 5 and 6, which is trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean not to your own understanding, submit to him in all your ways, and he will make your path straight. And Proverbs 3 invites us to trust, lean, and submit to God's plan, and in return, he'll provide joy, peace, love, prosperity, and freedom. So why don't we just get this party started?
Nothing more on my mind. I got 2 shines, so every day I grind. Work in the morning, work in the evening. We's achieving, cause we believing. It's for certain, we put the work in. We ain't stopped just because it's hurting. Right before your eyes, so it's coming to no surprise. The takeover is televised. Over and over and over again. Make no mistake, we continue to win. Defeat never known, cause I will not lose. They wanna mimic my moves, but can't walk in my shoes.
Happy Friday, happy Friday, happy Friday. My mom always made a huge deal of Fridays, and it was that she would always say TGIF, and she always made it like this huge celebration. So happy Friday to every single one of you that's out there. Also, we have the Vibe Room, or the Vibe Experience, that's coming. That's April 12th. The tickets haven't been released, but as soon as they're released, they're generally gone. We are doing something where I'd like all of you guys to subscribe to my Substack. The link is in the bio. And what we did is we released the handwritten notes. It's handwritten notes of wisdom and encouragement. We do that every week. It's a newsletter, but it's in my handwriting. And so I think the first thing, it'll give you some confidence, because my handwriting is not the greatest in the world. Sometimes my spelling is off and things like that. But it'll help you to realize that it's like when I go golfing with someone, they always love me because they know, they realize how good they are. So this newsletter will encourage you with wisdom and give you some encouragement, but it'll also help you to realize how good your handwriting is. Subscribe on the Substack, and if you become a founding member, there's only 8 spots left, but for this particular situation. But the first 10, we're actually giving a ticket to the Vibe Experience just for being a founder on our Substack. So the Substack, you can check that, the link. It's incredible. So go ahead and do that. That's all the station identification. Let's jump into this. I was laughing so much because I'm sitting at the beach this morning, and I'm just literally watching the contrast of the kids' freedom, joy, all over the place, having so much, not a care in the world. And then I look over over at the parents, and the parents are pretty tight. So, in Proverbs 3, while I was reading through, it started to give us some thoughts, and it said trust and lean and submit. These all don't sound like very enticing things. Trust in something, lean on it, and then submit. But I think that sometimes we try and jump to the end part, right? We try and jump to submit. Oh, I want to submit to this thing. I want to go after this particular idea before we've ever leaned on it, before we've ever trusted it in the first place. And so if you think about this really is a recipe, the trusting, the leaning, and the submitting. It's a recipe for sustainable success in anything that you do, whether that be in your relationships, your friendships, your business, whatever it is. If we trust in it, and I'll give you an example. I had a friend, her name is Stacy, and Stacy listens to the podcast. Thank you so much, Stacy. She is incredible. And we were talking about the onboarding process, right? And the onboarding process within her business has been challenging at times because, she's looking to be able to grow her company. And as she grows her company, she needs to have people in place to be able to make that happen. So as we started to talk about the onboarding, what I find is in most companies, the biggest challenge in most companies is the onboarding process, right? So that's one of the biggest challenges. And then inside that onboarding is 99% of the challenges in business and life, as my pops told me, was communication. So if we know how to communicate in the onboarding process, it's amazing the challenges we can circumvent. But the reason why I'm saying that is because if you have a system, you create a system, right? And you trust in that system, and then you lean on it. You lean on it little bit by little bit by little bit to really understand that you could get to a point of complete submission. Then once you submit, then your paths will be straight in that scenario. And so, but it doesn't happen overnight. It happens from a little bit of trust, right? So a little bit of trust, little bit of trust, little bit of trust, little bit of leaning, little bit of leaning, little bit of leaning, and then going into submission. And you can't submit until you've leaned, and you can't lean until you trust. And so that's the reason why I was talking about that process, and it can be so sustainable in so many areas. So in Proverbs 3, it broke it down in verse 1 and 2. Seek wisdom, apply it, and don't forget it. And it goes in that order, right? So we have to seek it out. Whatever you seek out, you'll find. And I was realizing this, like I was just reading, and I'm actually going to be releasing a book this year that is, it's very near and dear to my heart. It is Be Kind, Make Friends, and Stay Curious. And those things, those principles, can be applied in any single area. And it's amazing what can happen. So as I was looking at it, though, is, we've got in the chapter of kindness that I have actually wrote out most of the book, and I was just reading a lot of it, reading over it this morning. And as I was reading it, it just talked about, I got to write about kindness. And it's like, once we start to seek out kindness, then we'll find kindness in so many other areas of our life. When we start to seek out, like, for my daughter's 16th birthday, I wanted to make sure that she got the exact car that she wanted. I wanted a baby blue convertible Beetle with a black top and black interior. And you know what? As I sought it out, you know what I found? I found that, and it ended up in Utah. I was able to get it, and now it's in our garage, and she named it Bernard. So I think those things are funny, but whatever we focus on, right? Anything that we focus on, we will find, right? So first we got to seek wisdom. If you seek wisdom, if you look for it, then you'll find it. If you find it, then apply it. And once you apply it, then don't forget it. And it talks about this in verse 1 and 2 all the way through, which I think is incredible. In verse 3 and 4, these two things, for me, they seemed a little bit too simple. They seemed way too simple, but watch this. Love and faithfulness are the foundation of a good name. And if you want a good name in the, personal side, professional side, spiritual side, financial side, if you want a good name, love and faithfulness will be that guide. There's a young man named Jeff Flam, and Jeff Flam, his name comes to mind when I think of love and faithfulness. I met him a couple of years ago through a friend of mine named Peter Anthony. And Peter Anthony is one of the top digital marketers in the world. And this guy is incredible. And he introduced me to his friend, Jeff Lamb. I got to speak at his at one of his summits, at one of Jeff's summits. And he reached out to me the other day. And we're going to be featuring a chapter of my book with his group, the Zenith group. And but when I look at Jeff is never looking for something from people. He's always looking to provide for people. And he has an abundance, and he's been very successful in his marriage, in his family, in his businesses. But if I look at the core of it, it's exactly what this verse is love and faithfulness are a foundation of a good name. And the most important thing that you'll ever own, most valuable thing that you'll ever own in your life is your name. So, Jeff Lamb, I love you. I'm just inspired by you all the time, even though we don't get a chance to talk that much. We bring this to verse 5 and 6, which is the meat of today, right? In these Inchstones, Inchstones, just little tiny things that you pile over and over again, and you celebrate each one of them, and they become the milestone, right? So watch this. Trust, lean, and submit. This is the blueprint for anything successful. Trust, lean, submit. We went over it. I kind of precursored it, but in verse 5 and 6, if you read this, I guarantee you, if you read Proverbs 3, verse 5 and 6 every single day for a month, try it. Just a little challenge. Test it out. Start to see what happens. Start to test the things that you're submitted to right now. Did you go through the full process? Or did you submit before you leaned? Did you lean before you trusted? And how do we get to that point of trust is by just spending time. So trust, lean, and submit. This is the blueprint for anything successful. Proverbs chapter 3, verse 5 and 6. Read it over and over and over again. Share it with your kids. My pops shared it with me, and now I get to share it with you. In verse 7 and 8, don't build a house on the sand. That's pretty simple. Just don't do that. That's the silliest thing that you could ever do. Make sure there's a firm foundation as much as possible and build on that. In verse 9 and 10, honor creates increase. This is anything that you honor, it will cause it to increase. And try this with your people, try this with your business, try this with, well, watch this. If you want to build your business, watch this. Just go back to the people. Build the people. And once you build the people, then the people will build the business. And those kind of things are, I'm telling you, being able to see it happen in real time. And the way that we build people is that we recognize them and we celebrate them. We find the things that they're doing. We celebrate the things that they're doing. We acknowledge them, right? We acknowledge those things and we enjoy it. So find it, acknowledge it, celebrate, and enjoy it, right? So, and whatever you're looking for, you will find. So whatever you seek out, and like we were talking about earlier. In verse 11 and 12 is discipline hurts less, or self-discipline hurts less. This is a massive one because I always thought about it as a kid. I never wanted someone's foot in my butt, right? Never. I've despised it. I didn't like when people came down on me. I didn't like people in my face. I didn't like any of those things. So what I learned to do is just stick my own foot in my own butt. And so there's no room for anybody else's. So if you don't want somebody else's foot in your butt, put your own there, and then it'll just fill up all the room and no one could get after you. If you don't want people to discipline you and over-discipline you, discipline yourself. And when you do that, it hurts a lot less. In verse 13 through 26, wisdom applied produces understanding, and the benefits are so immense that it would be silly not to apply wisdom. Let me say it again. Wisdom applied produces understanding, and the benefits are so immense that it would be silly not to apply the wisdom that you find. If you're seeking it and you find it, which you will if you seek it, once you find it, just apply it, and then just don't forget it. We have to listen to it over and over and over again and fill our hearts. I got a smile on my face, but I went to the beach this morning. I got a chance to be able to spend some time with the Lord. And on my way back, I walked into the house. I'm smiling right now. I wasn't smiling about 10, 15 minutes ago. I walked into the house, and our little dog, Ziggy, had completely destroyed a yoga mat, and it was everywhere, and I absolutely lost it. But when I got to talk to my wife, I was like, I don't know what to do with this dog. And then now I'm here with a smile on my face because I know that if I trust in God, I submit, or I lean on him, I submit to him, then he will make my path straight. And my path was crooked about 20 minutes ago. So hopefully throughout the day, he'll make it a little bit more straight. In verse 27 through 30, do good, do right, never hesitate in these. I tell you, your reward will be immense. Do good, do right, and never hesitate in these. And the example of this, you guys have heard his name before. I hope you meet him someday. If he could become your friend, it'll change your life. And his name is Gary Spellman. Gary Spellman does good, does right, and he never hesitates in doing those things. I'm actually going to call him after this podcast, just tell him how much I love him. But I love you, my man. You changed my life, and you encouraged me in so many ways. And you were there for me and my pops in probably some of the toughest times of my life. And Gary, I absolutely love you. I love your family, and you're an incredible man. I love you, buddy. In verse 31 through 35, as we finish up, is silly actions don't create wise results. I always try and test this one. I always like, no, I could add a little bit of silly to it. But every time I do something silly, right, I don't get a wise result from it. Maybe I get a temporary one, but not a wise one, not a sustainable one. So silly actions don't create wise results. See, as children, we are carefree, full of joy and curiosity. And that is because the heavy responsibilities are on our parents. God wants you to know that he is the parent. And if you will trust, lean, and submit to his purpose, his plan, and his timing, he will make sure that everything is going to be okay. And as I look back at those kids playing, they were playing because they don't have no bills. They don't have to worry about dinner or lunch or breakfast. They don't have to worry about cleaning. Even themselves, their parents are going to clean them up. And imagine if we could get back to that childlike state, not childish, but childlike state, where we look at God as our parent that is going to take care of everything. It doesn't mean that we don't work hard. He shows us how to be able to work hard. He shows us how to be able to be diligent. He shows us all those things. But all he asks is that we, like my pops would always say after Proverbs chapter 3, verse 5 and 6, he would always say, Matthew 6:33, seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all else will be added on. It's just that simple. And I would fight with him all the time on it. I'd be like, it's not that simple, Pops. But all the simple principles that he laid in place for me throughout my life have proved to be the foundational things that I could build every single thing on. Think of that. Build the people, allow the people to build the business, right? That's a simple principle, but it's as true today as it was 20, 30 years ago or 40 years ago when I heard it for the first time. And it will be true in the future for every single thing that we do. So trust, lean, submit, and your paths will be straight. Hopefully you had a phenomenal day. Happy Friday to all of you. Check out the Substack. Make sure that you do that. The Vibe Experience is coming on the 12th of April. Tickets will sell out. If you want a ticket, it's included with the Substack if you become a founding member. I think the founding, you'll click on that, become a founding member. You'll sign up for that, and you'll get your ticket also to the Vibe Experience. But I love you so much. Big Rob, I love you. If you're listening, Will, Nate, Dave, I'm just very fortunate to have the friends I do in my life, and you guys are amazing. Thank you so much for all your support. My name is Kelly Cardenas, and I'm officially off the hot seat. Peace, love, and soul.
Nothing more on my mind. I got to shine, so every day I grind. Work in the morning, work in the evening. We's achieving, cause we believing. It's for certain, we put the